Okay, bear with me because this is the first time sharing the story from start to finish. So if I make it through without crying, it'll be a miracle. My name's Medearis, and I am a survivor of the Beirut blast of August 4th, 2020, and this is my story. So August 4th this past year, I had just gotten back from the US back to Beirut, which has been my home for the past 6 years. And I was really excited because I was going to meet up with a friend who I hadn't seen in a few months. To give you a little bit of a backstory, Beirut has been going through a revolution since October 2019. So it's been a tough year for Lebanon. So as we're talking about that, we hear this loud kind of buzzing noise, and it almost sounded like jets. So we were like, oh, that's weird. We were just talking about these Israeli planes flying over. Maybe they're doing a flyover right now. So people start coming out of the cafes onto the street, and my friend and I kind of look up into the sky. And about 5 seconds later, the explosion hit, and it truly felt like a scene out of a movie, of a war film. The sky turned orange from all the debris. There's dust and screaming. And I feel like time just stopped in that moment, and adrenaline kicked in because I don't know how we even function after something like that. But I remember looking at my friend, and she was still sitting at the table with her hands on the table, not moving. And I was like, okay, we need to get inside. So I grabbed her hand, pulled her inside. And as we were inside, I looked outside, and that's when I saw things I never wanted to see. And I remember sitting on the floor, and I had blood on my hand from being cut, and there's shards of glass stuck in my head, so my head was bleeding too. Finally, after an hour, we realized, okay, there's not going to be a second blast, so let's make our way home. So we left the cafe. People were already trying to clear the way. We started walking towards my car and realized the car was totally caved in from the pressure. And then the ground was just covered in glass as well. The building right across from us, I don't know if it's still standing, but the wall was caved in, and all the glass was blown out there. So we started walking down the street, and it was like it felt like the apocalypse hit because everything was totally destroyed. And later I found out that the blast site was less than half a mile away. And after seeing the videos, when I really let it sink in, I'm still shocked that I'm alive. Even in those moments, I realized that people are filled with so much kindness, and Lebanese have been through so much, through years of war, through years of trauma, and people would stop us on the street and ask us how we were doing or how they could help us or help each other. And total strangers, also people at the corner shop would check in, and this went on for months after and is still the case, and that's the beauty of the community in Lebanon. Took an Uber to the other side of town, met up with my friend, and I think that's when when I realized I was to a point of safety, I let my guard down and just started weeping. And I feel like I probably cried for a solid 2 weeks after that. And I think even now, I'm not at a point where I can look back and think, oh, well, this happened for this reason, or this good came out of it, because I still don't understand how something so horrible could happen. And I think in a country like Lebanon too, there's no relief after a huge incident like this. The government didn't come in with their cleaning crews. It was the young people that went in with their brooms and shovels, and they were the one rebuilding their city, and that makes me angry. You almost get to a point where you start to believe, well, this is what life is like. And I think that's really dangerous because you lose hope in that setting. So I think as I do reflect on what the past 7 months have been, or 6.5 months have been, I keep thinking about how Jesus also weeps when his people weep. And I remember reading the verse that Jesus wept over Jerusalem, and I just replaced the word Jerusalem with Beirut, because I really believe that Jesus weeps over Beirut and his heart breaks for the people there and for the city. God does not abandon us. He was there and he did protect so many people. If you look at the video of the blast, I am still shocked that thousands and thousands of people didn't die. And that doesn't take away the pain of the people that did pass away and the families that are grieving those losses. But I've heard so many stories of people saying 5 seconds before the blast, I was in this place or that place and I would have been dead. And I wish I could have some grand statement of saying this happened because of this. But I almost think that sometimes belittles the pain of people. I do think that throughout my life, I have had to reconcile with the question of what, if God's so loving, why is there suffering in the world? And I think we're always trying to answer that question. And I think as I get older and as I feel like when you get older, you just experience more pain in life. You almost get to a place where you have to stop asking that question. And while I believe that he does redeem things and he will redeem what happened with the Beirut explosion, I don't think he for sure didn't orchestrate this. I think it shows that we live in a very fallen and broken world, and there's so much pain in this world. One of my favorite verses over the last few months has been Isaiah 58:11. It says, "The Lord will guide you continually, giving you water when you are dry and restoring your strength. You will be like a well-watered garden, like an ever-flowing spring." And while I don't think I feel like a well-watered garden right now, it does give me hope that this is a season that's going to be harder, but God is working on restoring me and people around me, and Beirut as well. There are a lot of verses in the Bible that talk about if you go through suffering, there will be joy at the end of it, and Jesus worked through that. And I think just throughout this year, I've realized that control is only an illusion. And I think when we give up our sense of control, it brings us freedom. And I think in that sense, it is a daily choice of saying, okay, I'm giving up my control, I'm giving up my anxiety, I'm giving up my sorrow or my need to figure out my future. And I'm just gonna try to be faithful. I don't know if I can say I'm angry at God. That made me angry that he would allow this to happen. I'm angry that after the explosion, 10 of my friends moved the next week because they couldn't handle it anymore, Lebanese and expats. I'm angry that there are still shards of glass in the streets of Beirut that remind me of what happened. I'm angry that the Lebanese government has done nothing to help their people. I'm angry that protests are still going on and the sounds of sirens trigger me, and I can't figure out why when there's already so much pain and I feel like I can't handle anything more. Something else happens, and bombs and explosions happen in all different ways, and whether it's a physical explosion or life bombs or just come at you, and I just feel like I just find myself asking God, like, okay, I can handle maybe one explosion, but I can't handle all these other explosions and life bombs. And I don't know why that happens, and when the end is in sight and when there will be a season of joy again. And to be honest, I think reading the story of Job wrestled with God and asked God so many questions, and I think that's okay to say, okay, God, I have all these questions, or where are you, or why is this happening? And I think even conversing with God, that's what he wants. He wants us to just have a relationship with him and to ask those hard questions and wrestle with him. So while I still feel like I'm in the middle of recovering or being healed from what has happened in the last several months, I am so thankful for his kindness and the ways that he does provide, and even friends that have stepped into my life and have cared for me well. Yeah, it's almost funny the way God works and how he shows up through people. It reminds me that he is a very intimate God. He's not this big guy in the sky that isn't very involved, but he deeply cares about our pains, whether they're small or big, and he's not weighing how difficult something is compared to somebody else's challenges, but wants to meet us where we're at. Hi, my name is Medearis, and while I'm still in the midst of this pain, I know that we are loved by God, who heals and restores, and that is my story.